Chapter 1, The Midsummer Warning. June 26, 6 p.m., San Jose, California. The land baked under the scorching heat, and air conditioning units hummed relentlessly. Emily had just finished a grueling final exam, collapsing exhausted onto her bed in the college apartment. She slipped on her AirPods and scrolled aimlessly through TikTok. Outside, a typical California sunset painted the sky in soft orange-pink hues. Suddenly, an eerily styled video interrupted her scrolling. Its frame showed a desolate wasteland of pure ice and snow, with strong winds swirling snowflakes. A cold, AI-generated voice announced without the slightest emotion. Warning, on June 30, 2025, a global super blizzard will strike, and Earth will enter a new ice age. Prepare for extreme cold immediately. Stockpiling survival supplies is critical. The poster was the chrononaut. The upload time, 12 a.m. Emily's heart jolted. She sat up abruptly, cold sweat breaking out on her back. Not from the heat, but from an instinctive chill. She'd stumbled upon this mysterious chrononaut account a few weeks earlier. His predictions had sounded absurd at first: a minor tremor along a section of the San Andreas Fault, a brief, accidental closure of Interstate 80, even a short-lived power fluctuation in a Bay Area neighborhood. No one took him seriously, until each event came true, down to the smallest detail, within days. His follower count had soared to 1 million amid doubt and awe. But Emily believed. She had a sharp instinct for hidden danger. She yanked off her AirPods, her voice trembling slightly as she turned to her 3 roommates. An ice age is coming. In just 4 days. We need to buy cold weather gear and supplies right now. Chloe, scrolling through Instagram on the couch, looked up and frowned. Emily, what are you talking about? Cold weather gear. It's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit, about 37.8 degrees Celsius, outside. Kim, making a salad in the kitchen, turned around too, her face filled with disbelief. Come on, Emily, have you been watching too many doomsday videos? Jessica, leaning by the window on a video call with her boyfriend, mumbled in agreement. Yeah, these influencers will say anything for clicks. They just want to stir up anxiety. Emily took a deep breath and turned up her phone's volume. The cold AI voice echoed through the sweltering apartment, carrying an uncanny chill. I'm serious. This influencer is different, all his predictions have come true, she tried to persuade them. Just coincidences, Jessica dismissed it. Even if it snows, in California. How much could it snow? Enough to bury Silicon Valley. Looking at her roommates' skeptical faces, Emily knew further argument was useless. She'd done her duty as a friend. Urgency surged through her. She didn't hesitate, she opened the Uber app and booked a ride. Then she jumped out of bed and started packing her bags efficiently. Emily, are you going out? Chloe asked, confused, watching her rush around. Yeah, I'm staying at my grandma's old cabin for a few days to clear my head, Emily replied without looking up, using a vague excuse. She stuffed her laptop, important textbooks, passport, SSN card, all her cash, and a few portable power banks into her backpack, then zipped up her suitcase. Before leaving, she turned to her 3 roommates one last time, her tone sincere. I'll let the RA, resident advisor, know. Take my advice, if you have time, go to Costco or Safeway and buy lots of energy bars, protein bars, bottled water, and canned food. Also, it's off-season now, winter gear at outdoor stores might be on sale. With that, she slung her heavy backpack over her shoulder, grabbed her suitcase, and walked resolutely out of the apartment. Behind her, she heard Jessica mutter belatedly, didn't her grandma pass away a few years ago? Chapter 2, A Desperate Gamble to Prepare. The Uber navigated through evening traffic toward the edge of the Santa Cruz Mountains. Emily was heading to a small wooden cabin in the woods near the town of Felton, left to her by her grandma. It was her only true safe haven in the world, a small property her estranged parents barely cared about. It was precisely because the cabin was worthless that it had stayed in her hands. Thinking of how her parents had focused more on the trust fund left for her brother, a bitter smile tugged at Emily's lips. Over her college years, she'd scraped together nearly $20,000 from scholarships and part-time jobs at cafes and libraries. It was her entire life savings. Now she was gambling it all on an uncertain prediction. If the prediction is wrong, I'll only lose money. I can earn more. But if it's right... She watched the redwood trees blur past the window, her gaze hardening. I only have one life. I can't afford to lose it. She arrived at the forest cabin in the dark. It was a small, classic A-frame house with a fireplace and a storage room. When she opened the door, the air smelled of pine and dust. She turned on the generator to restore power, gave the master bedroom a quick clean, and made up the bed. Then she sat at the kitchen table, turned on a flashlight, and began listing survival supplies in a notebook. 1. Cold weather gear, extreme weather tent, down sleeping bags, merino wool base layers, fleece jackets, thick wool socks, waterproof insulated snow boots, gloves, balaclavas, ski masks, heavy-duty down parkas, 2 sets each. Luckily, it was midsummer, winter gear at REI and other outdoor stores was heavily discounted. 2. Food, water, vacuum-sealed rice, flour, pasta, canned goods, beans, meat, soup, fruit, MREs, meals ready to eat, freeze-dried food, energy gels, nuts, chocolate, large quantities of sugar, salt, olive oil, multivitamins. Bottled water, sports drinks, moderate amount, snow could be melted later. 3. Energy tools, high-capacity power banks, solar charging panels, hand crank radio/flashlights, butane stoves, gas canisters, hand warmers, propane heaters, to be used cautiously, axes, multi-tools, binoculars, signal flares, emergency whistles. 4. Medical supplies, comprehensive first aid kits, prescription medications, stocked up, over-the-counter drugs, painkillers, cold medicine, antihistamines, antidiarrheals, high SPF sunscreen, for snow reflection, water purification tablets, personal hygiene products. 5. Other supplies, toilet paper, wet wipes, heavy-duty trash bags, duct tape, plastic wrap, insulation foam boards, thick plastic sheeting, backup fuel. By the time she finished the list, it was midnight. She immediately placed orders for all next-day or 2-day delivery items on Amazon and other outdoor gear websites, sending them to the nearest pickup location. June 27, early morning. Emily first rented a pickup truck from Home Depot, then headed straight to Costco. Like a squirrel preparing for winter, she shopped strategically in bulk, 50-pound bags of rice and flour, cases of canned food, pasta sauce, MREs, large bottles of water, and non-perishable foods like nuts and oatmeal. Next, she went to outdoor stores, snapping up top-tier cold weather gear, sleeping bags, butane stoves, and gas canisters from the clearance section. At Home Depot, she bought thick plastic sheeting, foam boards, duct tape, axes, crowbars, a small home generator, and extra fuel. Hauling all the supplies back to the cabin and unloading them was physically exhausting. She was nearly drained, but she didn't stop. In the afternoon, she drove to the pickup location to collect all her packages. That evening, she visited every CVS and Walgreens in the area to stock up on medicine and hygiene products. After a quick dinner, the real work began. She filled every container she could find with water, the bathtub, buckets, even clean trash cans. Using the generator's power, she cooked large batches of rice and pasta in a pressure cooker, then sealed them in containers and left them outside to freeze naturally, taking advantage of the upcoming cold. Over the next 2 days, Emily worked like a well-oiled machine. She reinforced the doors and windows, sealing all gaps with expanding foam. She wrapped the main living areas, including the living room with the fireplace, in multiple layers of foam boards and plastic sheeting, creating a core insulated zone. The storage room was converted into a smaller, easier-to-heat shelter, where she set up the extreme weather tent. She tested the generator and propane heater to ensure they worked properly. June 29, night. Everything was ready. She took a hot shower, then habitually searched for the chrononaut on TikTok. But the page showed, "This account has been banned for violating community guidelines." Her heart sank. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. Using the satellite internet, the cabin had poor signal, so she'd prepared satellite equipment. She downloaded a huge library of movies, documentaries, ebooks, and survival guides onto her hard drive and tablet. In the stillness of the night, she lay on the couch near the large window, staring at the pitch-black forest outside, where only the sound of wind in the pines could be heard. Overwhelming loneliness and uncertainty washed over her. She'd spent nearly all her $20,000 savings on these supplies. Was this a gamble or a wise act of redemption? The answer was about to be revealed. Chapter 3, California Blizzard, the Apocalypse Begins. Exhaustion finally overcame anxiety, and Emily drifted into a dazed sleep. She woke to an unnatural silence and a pale glow filtering through the curtains. She pulled back a corner of the curtain. Outside, the familiar dark green of the forest was gone, replaced by a chaotic white. Large snowflakes fell densely and silently, covering the driveway, trees, and roof. The world was eerily quiet, even the sound of wind in the pines had vanished. Her phone showed it was just after 7 a.m. on June 30th. It was snowing. In June, in California. She picked up her phone with trembling hands. The signal was intermittent. Social media was in an uproar. Videos and photos showed snow falling simultaneously across California, from Los Angeles to San Francisco, coast to inland valleys, and even around the world. Meteorologists were left speechless, and hashtags like #SnowInJune and #IceAge trended wildly. After the initial shock, Emily calmed down quickly. She stripped off her t-shirt and shorts, putting on her merino wool base layers, fleece pants, and thick socks. Then she walked to the window and looked through her binoculars. The snowfall was heavy, reducing visibility to almost zero. On the distant highway, she could faintly see cars parked at odd angles and figures struggling to move through the snow. Those who reacted quickly had already started rushing to nearby supermarkets. She turned away from the outside world and walked into the kitchen. While the generator still had power and the water pump worked, she needed to enjoy one last hearty hot meal. She fried a steak on the stove, made cream of mushroom soup, and even opened a can of green beans. On the table, she placed a can of cola she'd bought earlier. As she sat down to eat, her phone rang. It was a FaceTime audio call from her mom. "Emily. Oh my God, have you seen the weather? It's terrifying. Buy a ticket home to Los Angeles right now. And while you're at it, get your brother some of his favorite snacks and new games. He's bored out of his mind." Her mom's voice was fraught, with her brother's whines and her dad's impatient grumbling in the background. Emily's heart felt cold, but her voice was surprisingly calm. "Mom, I've been so busy this semester, I didn't save much money. I can't afford a plane ticket. God. We pay so much for your tuition. Listen, get back here immediately." Her mom complained habitually, then, annoyed by her son's crying, reluctantly sent $1,000 via Venmo. "By the earliest flight you can." Emily confirmed the payment with a blank expression and replied, "I booked the ticket." She then sent her mom a carefully filtered photo of the steak dinner she'd made, making it look even more appetizing. Soon after, she sent a screenshot of news about major airline cancellations, along with a message, "Stuck at the airport. Used the money to buy food." As expected, her phone blew up with calls. She set it to Do Not Disturb, keeping only iMessage open. She wanted them to see her life in the days ahead. In the apartment group chat, Chloe had sent a message. The school had gathered all remaining students at the largest student center for unified management and food distribution. Kim and Jessica both regretted not listening to Emily. They'd only bought a few snacks and supplies were now scarce. They urged Emily to return to school, saying safety was in numbers. Emily politely declined, once again reminding them to keep a low profile and not reveal any personal supplies. That night, the internet became extremely unstable. Through a blurry live stream, she saw a Walmart packed with people. Initially, staff had tried to maintain order and distribute food, but some people had started breaking store windows to loot. Arguments and fights broke out, sharp against the white backdrop. Someone fell in the snow, their red blood slowly freezing. The snow piled higher, and a hard crust formed on the surface. This meant the blockade was no longer absolute, looters could walk freely. Emily's heart raced. She kept her axe and crowbar within arm's reach, staying alert day and night as she watched the snow-covered path leading to her cabin through her binoculars. Luckily, her cabin was relatively remote and seemed undiscovered for the time being. The forest provided an extra barrier. Days dragged by in extreme boredom and high tension. Generator fuel and propane reserves dwindled, she had to conserve them fiercely. The battery life of her phone and tablet was barely maintained by the solar charging panels, and the videos and books stored on them became her only mental comfort. Chapter 4: A Silent World and the Edge of Humanity. Cold seeped in like a slow tide, gradually invading the cabin. Even with thorough insulation and a heater, the indoor temperature remained far below normal. Emily had to wear all her cold weather gear. The quality of her meals plummeted, fresh food was quickly exhausted, and she relied on canned goods, MREs, and freeze-dried food. Hot water became a luxury, and she heated it carefully on the gas stove. Through her binoculars and drone, used briefly before the signal disappeared completely, she witnessed the growing chaos in the distant town and on the highway. At first, cars broke down, and people helped each other. Then, figures appeared, smashing store windows to loot. Arguments and fights, stark against the white landscape. Someone fell in the snow, their red blood slowly congealing. The snow grew thicker, and a hard crust formed on its surface. This meant the isolation was no longer absolute, raiders could walk freely. Emily's heart was in her throat. She kept her axe and crowbar within easy reach, staying vigilant day and night as she watched the snow-covered path leading to her cabin through her binoculars. Fortunately, her cabin was relatively remote and seemed to have gone unnoticed for the time being. The forest provided an extra barrier. Days passed in extreme monotony and heightened tension. Generator fuel and propane supplies were steadily depleting, and she had to be extremely frugal. The battery life of her phone and tablet was barely sustained by the solar panels, and the videos and books stored on them became her only source of mental solace. Chapter 5: A Rescue Signal and a New Era. July 30th. After nearly a month of being trapped and cut off from the world. In the morning, a faint but distinct rumble approached, breaking the deathly silence. A helicopter. Emily practically threw herself to the window, confirming through her binoculars, a dark green fuselage with CAL FIRE, California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, and National Guard emblazoned on the side. She had only one chance. Without hesitation, she used the back of her axe to smash a window pane. Biting cold wind rushed in instantly. She leaned half her body out of the window, summoning all her strength to blow her emergency whistle. The sharp, urgent sound echoed through the silent mountains. At the same time, she waved frantically with an orange emergency blanket she'd prepared earlier, reflecting the harsh light. The helicopter clearly noticed the unusual movement and glow in this frozen world. It adjusted its course, hovering over a relatively flat area in front of her cabin before landing with difficulty. Several rescuers in heavy cold weather gear and well-equipped stepped through the deep snow. Emily had already opened the door. The leader of the group showed his ID. "Ma'am, we're from the California National Guard Joint Rescue Team. I'm Captain Davis. Are you okay?" Looking at these faces, symbols of order and hope, Emily's eyes welled up, and her voice threatened to crack. I'm okay." She briefly explained her situation. Davis inspected her supplies, a look of surprise crossing his face. "You did an excellent job. Your preparation likely saved your life." Since she had ample supplies and her location was relatively safe, the rescue team recorded her information, told her that more supply drops would come later, and suggested she join them at a larger shelter if possible. After consideration, Emily decided to stay in her cabin temporarily but accepted some fuel and medical supplies. A few days later, a larger rescue convoy cleared a path to the area and set up a temporary evacuation point. Emily eventually decided to head to a major shelter in the San Francisco Bay Area, converted from several connected stadiums.